The bar sat on the edge of the coast, waves crashing against the rocks below. Daniel Carter pushed through the wooden door and found a seat at the far end of the counter. The place was nearly empty, just how he liked it. After 3 months hauling cargo between orbital stations, he needed quiet more than company. The bartender slid a glass across the counter without asking. Daniel had been coming here for years, always ordering the same thing. He took a sip and stared out the window at the dark ocean. Tomorrow he would be back up there, moving containers from one station to another. The same route, the same stops, the same endless void. He loved space once. As a kid, he dreamed of exploring distant worlds and meeting alien races. But humanity was alone in the universe as far as anyone knew. Space travel meant hauling supplies or mining asteroids. Nothing romantic about it, just work. The door opened again. A woman walked in, her hair pulled back in a simple tie. She wore plain clothes, nothing fancy. But something about the way she moved caught his attention. She looked around the bar, then chose a seat 2 stools away from him. The bartender approached her. She ordered water first, then changed her mind and asked for whiskey. When the glass arrived, she held it but did not drink right away. She just stared at it like she was trying to solve a puzzle. Daniel went back to watching the ocean. He was not here to make conversation. "Long day?" the woman asked. He glanced at her. She was looking at him now, her eyes tired but sharp. He nodded. "Long 3 months. You work off-world?" "Cargo pilot just got back this morning." He took another drink. "You?" She smiled, but it looked sad. "You could say I travel for work too." "Business or pleasure?" "Neither. Duty." She finally drank from her glass, wincing slightly. "What made you become a pilot?" Daniel shrugged. "Wanted to see the stars when I was young. Turned out the stars are mostly empty space and shipping containers." "Do you regret it?" The question surprised him. Most people asked about the cool parts of space travel, not whether he regretted his choices. He thought about it. "Sometimes, but someone has to keep the stations supplied. People need to eat, need medicine, need parts. Not glamorous, but it matters." The woman nodded slowly, like his answer meant something important. "You think what you do matters even though no one notices." "I notice. The people waiting for their supplies notice." He turned on his stool to face her properly. "What about you? What do you do?" "I make decisions," she said after a pause. "Big ones, ones that affect a lot of people." "Sounds stressful." "It is." She finished her drink and ordered another. "Do you like humanity, Daniel?" He blinked. "How did you know my name?" She pointed at his jacket. His name was stitched on the chest. He felt foolish for forgetting. "Right, and yeah, I guess I like humanity. We're not perfect, but we try. Most of us, anyway." He studied her. "Why ask something like that?" "Just curious about perspectives. You see things from up there, right? Earth from space. Does it change how you see people?" "Makes you realize how small we are, how fragile. One planet all alone, and we spend so much time fighting each other over stupid things." He paused. "But then you come back down and see a parent with their kid or someone helping a stranger, and you remember why it matters. We can be better than we are." The woman, who still had not given her name, looked at him with an expression he could not read. "You really believe that? That humans can be better?" "Have to believe it, otherwise what's the point?" They talked for hours after that. She asked him about his childhood, about what he loved most about Earth, about his dreams. He found himself opening up in ways he usually did not with strangers. She listened to everything, asking follow-up questions that showed she really cared about his answers. When he asked about her life, she deflected smoothly. She told him small things. She liked coffee in the morning. She had not been home in a long time. She carried weight on her shoulders that she could not share, but nothing concrete, nothing that would let him know who she really was. "Don't you trust me?" he asked, half joking. "It's not about trust," she said quietly. "It's about wanting one night where I'm just a person, not a title, not a position, just me." He understood that. Okay, no more questions about work. They left the bar together as it closed. She suggested walking on the beach. The sand was cool under their feet, the moon bright overhead. They talked about music, about books, about what makes life worth living. She had opinions on everything, strong ones, but she listened to his too. At some point, she took his hand. It felt natural, like they had known each other for years instead of hours. They ended up at his small apartment near the docks. She kissed him at the door, and he let her in. That night was simple and real. No pretense, no games, just two people finding comfort in each other. She fell asleep in his arms, and he watched her for a while, wondering who she really was. When he woke up, the sun was just starting to rise. She was already dressed, sitting on the edge of the bed. She looked at him with that same sad smile from the bar. "You're leaving," he said, not a question. "I have to." She reached out and touched his face gently. "Thank you for last night, for being honest, for being kind. Will I see you again?" She stood up and walked to the door. "I hope humanity stays as hopeful as you, Daniel. I really do." "Wait, I don't even know your name." She paused at the door. Then she was gone. Daniel lay in bed for a long time after that, staring at the ceiling. He looked for any sign she had left contact information. Nothing. No note, no number, no way to reach her. Just a memory of one perfect night with a stranger who asked strange questions about humanity. He went back to work the next day. Back to the cargo runs, the long hours in space, the same routine. But he thought about her often. About the way she listened, the way she looked at him like his words mattered. He had no idea who she was or why she had been in that bar. Daniel was halfway between Mars and Jupiter when his console lit up with emergency alerts. Every screen on his cargo ship flashed red. He pulled back on the throttle and checked the readouts, expecting a reactor failure or hull breach. Instead, he saw a general broadcast message from Earth Defense Command. "All civilian vessels return to Earth immediately. This is not a drill. All civilian vessels return to Earth immediately." His heart pounded. In 15 years of flying cargo, he had never heard that message. He switched to the news channels and his mouth went dry. Ships filled his screen. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, sitting at the edge of the solar system. They were massive, dwarfing anything humanity had ever built. Their designs were completely alien, nothing like human engineering. Some looked like crystals floating in space. Others resembled organic creatures more than machines. The reporter's voice shook as she spoke. "We're receiving confirmation from multiple sources. This is first contact. Alien vessels have entered our solar system. They are not attacking, but they have not responded to our hail attempts either." Daniel sat frozen in his seat. Aliens, real aliens. After centuries of searching, of wondering if humanity was alone, they were here. He thought about all those nights staring at stars, dreaming of this moment. Now it was happening, and he felt nothing but fear. He turned his ship around and pushed the engines to maximum. It would take him 2 days to get back to Earth. 2 days of watching the news, listening to experts speculate about alien intentions, wondering if this was humanity's last week of existence. The aliens did not attack. They just waited. On the second day of their arrival, they finally sent a message. It was in perfect English, translated into every human language simultaneously. "People of Earth, we are the Galactic Coalition, representatives of 347 species. We come in peace. We request a formal meeting with your leaders to discuss Earth's future in the galactic community." The world went crazy after that. Some people celebrated in the streets, others panicked and stockpiled supplies. Governments scrambled to form a unified response. Religious leaders debated what this meant for humanity's place in the universe. Daniel made it back to Earth and landed at the docks. All cargo operations had been suspended. The orbital stations were on lockdown. No one knew what came next. He went home and turned on every screen he had. The news showed nothing but coverage of the alien fleet. Scientists talked about the ship's technology, estimating they were centuries ahead of human capabilities. Military experts discussed defense scenarios if things went wrong. Politicians argued about who should represent humanity in the talks. 3 days after the fleet arrived, the aliens agreed to meet with Earth's assembled leaders. They would send a delegation to the surface. The meeting would be broadcast worldwide. Daniel watched from his apartment. He held a beer but forgot to drink it. The screen showed a landing pad that had been hastily constructed in Geneva. Security surrounded it. Every news camera on Earth pointed at the empty space where the alien ship would land. A vessel descended from orbit. It was smaller than the massive ships at the system's edge, but still impressive. It moved without sound, without visible engines. It simply floated down and settled on the pad like it weighed nothing. A door opened, figures emerged. They looked humanoid mostly, 2 arms, 2 legs, walking upright, but the similarities ended there. Some had skin in colors Daniel had never seen on any Earth creature. Others had features that seemed impossible, like they were made of living metal or crystallized light. In the center of the group walked a human. At least she looked human. Daniel leaned forward, squinting at the screen. No, it could not be. The camera zoomed in on the delegation leader. The woman wore formal robes that seemed to shimmer with their own light. Her hair was styled differently, more elaborate, but her face was unmistakable. The beer slipped from Daniel's hand and hit the floor. He did not notice. The reporter's voice filled his apartment. The delegation is led by High Chancellor of the Galactic Coalition. According to the brief information they've provided, Chancellor has served in this position for over 30 years and commands the combined military forces of the Coalition. She holds the authority to speak for all member species. Daniel could not breathe. The woman he had spent one night with 3 months ago was not just some traveler. She commanded the fate of 347 alien species. She had power beyond anything humanity had ever known. And she had asked him about humanity over drinks in a beach bar. His mind raced back to that night. Every question she asked suddenly had new meaning. Do you like humanity? Do you think humans can be better? She had not been making conversation. She had been evaluating Earth, judging whether humans deserved a place among the stars. He watched as she stepped up to the podium. Earth's leaders stood to the side, clearly unsure of their position. Looked calm, commanding, nothing like the tired woman who had walked into that bar. People of Earth, she began, her voice echoing across every speaker on the planet. My name is, I serve as High Chancellor of the Galactic Coalition, a union of species bound by mutual cooperation and shared values. For centuries, we have watched your species from afar, waiting for you to develop the capability for interstellar travel. That time has come. She paused, and Daniel could swear she looked directly into the camera. The Coalition extends an invitation to humanity. Join us. Take your place among the stars. Share in our knowledge, our resources, our future. We believe you are ready. The room where the delegates met erupted in whispers, raised her hand for silence. However, this is not a simple matter. Admission to the Coalition requires unanimous approval from the member species. There are some who question whether humanity is ready for this responsibility. In 1 week, the Coalition Council will vote on Earth's admission. During this time, we will conduct formal meetings with your leaders. We will answer your questions and address your concerns. She looked around the room, her expression serious. I have traveled far to be here. I have seen your world, met your people, learned about your history. I believe humanity deserves this chance. But the decision is not mine alone. It belongs to the entire Coalition, and ultimately it belongs to you. How you conduct yourselves in this coming week will shape not just your future, but the future of every species in the galaxy. The broadcast continued with questions and formal procedures, but Daniel stopped listening. He stared at the screen, at standing there with the power of hundreds of worlds behind her. She had come to Earth secretly before first contact. She had disguised herself, walked among humans, and chosen a random bar where she met a cargo pilot. Everything that night had been deliberate. She had been testing humanity through him. His hands shook. His simple, honest answers to her questions might have influenced the most powerful being in the galaxy. He thought about what he had said, that humans can be better, that we try, that individual kindness matters even when the universe is vast and cold. Had he said the right things? Had he represented humanity well enough? The screen showed finishing her speech and leaving with her delegation. She looked confident, powerful, nothing like the woman who had held his hand on the beach. Daniel's console beeped. He ignored it, then it beeped again, more insistent. He finally looked at it. Private communication request, secured channel, source, Coalition Diplomatic Compound. His finger hovered over the accept button. This could not be what he thought it was. She could not possibly want to talk to him. She was the High Chancellor of the galaxy. He was nobody. A face appeared on the screen, but it was not. The alien had pale blue skin and eyes that seemed to shift colors as Daniel watched. It spoke in perfect English with a slight accent he could not place. Daniel Carter, I am Liaison Kemp, Assistant to High Chancellor. The Chancellor requests your presence at the Coalition Diplomatic Compound in Geneva. Transportation has been arranged. A shuttle will arrive at your location in 1 hour. Daniel found his voice. Why does she want to see me? The Chancellor will explain when you arrive. Will you accept the invitation? What else could he say? Yes. Excellent, please be ready. The screen went dark. Daniel stood in his apartment, trying to process what just happened. An hour ago, he was a cargo pilot watching history unfold on television. Now the most powerful being in the galaxy wanted to meet with him personally. He changed into clean clothes, his hands still shaking. The shuttle arrived exactly on time. It was small but clearly alien, hovering silently outside his building. He climbed aboard and it lifted off immediately. There was no pilot. The craft flew itself. Geneva appeared below him within minutes. The shuttle must have been going speeds that should have killed him, but he felt nothing. Alien technology was beyond anything he imagined. The craft descended toward a massive compound that had been set up near the meeting site. Security checkpoints surrounded it, both human and alien. The shuttle landed on a private pad. Guards waited for him, 2 humans and 1 alien that looked like walking stone. They scanned him 3 times, checked his identification, and made him walk through some kind of energy field that tingled against his skin. Finally, they led him into the compound. The interior was strange, walls that seemed to glow with soft light, floors that adjusted to his steps. Everything felt alive somehow. They took him through corridor after corridor until they reached a door that looked like liquid metal. "The Chancellor is inside," one of the human guards said. "You may enter." The door rippled and opened. Daniel stepped through into a private room. It was decorated simply, almost like a human office, stood by a window that showed the night sky. She turned as he entered. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she smiled, and it was the same sad smile from the bar. "Hello, Daniel." "Hi, Chancellor," he said, not knowing what else to call her. "Is fine when it's just us, I prefer," she gestured to a chair. "Please sit. Would you like something to drink?" He sat down carefully, feeling like everything he touched might be worth more than his entire life savings. "I'm okay. I think I need answers more than drinks right now." Sat across from him. Up close, he could see the tiredness in her eyes, the same tiredness from that night 3 months ago. "I owe you an apology and an explanation." "You're the leader of the galaxy." "High Chancellor of the Galactic Coalition," she corrected gently. "It's not quite the same as ruling. More like managing 347 different opinions while trying to keep everyone from going to war with each other." "Why did you come to Earth? Why did you meet me in that bar?" Was quiet for a moment. "The Coalition has been watching Earth for a long time. We have reports, data, analysis of your history and culture, but reports don't tell you everything. I needed to understand humanity on a personal level. So I came here quietly, disguised myself, and went looking for ordinary humans, people who would talk to me honestly without knowing who I was." "That bar wasn't random." "No, I chose it specifically, near the docks frequented by people who work in space. I wanted to meet someone who understood both Earth and the wider universe." She looked at him directly. "Finding you was lucky. Talking to you changed everything." "What do you mean?" "The Coalition was divided on humanity. Some species wanted to invite you immediately. Others wanted to wait another century. A few wanted to avoid contact altogether. As High Chancellor, I had to make a recommendation. But I could not do that based on data alone. I needed to understand what humans truly value, what drives you, what you believe about yourselves." Daniel felt his stomach twist. So everything that night was a test. "No," leaned forward, her voice firm. "It started as investigation, yes, but talking to you became real very quickly. Your honesty, your hope, your belief that humans can be better than they are. That was not something I expected to find. And it mattered to me both professionally and personally." "You're saying I influenced your decision about humanity?" "You did. I recommended immediate contact and admission to the Coalition, but that recommendation caused problems." She stood and walked back to the window. "There is a species called they are powerful, influential, and they oppose human admission strongly. They claim humans are too violent, too unstable, too dangerous to trust with advanced technology." "Are they wrong?" Daniel asked quietly. Turned back to him. "Every species in the Coalition has a violent history. The question is not whether humans are perfect. It's whether you are capable of growth, of learning from mistakes, of choosing something better. I believe you are, but they are pushing for a vote to reject your admission." "Why do they care so much?" "Resources. There are several systems near Earth with valuable materials. If humans join the Coalition, those systems fall under Coalition protection laws. They cannot claim them. If humans are rejected, those systems remain open territory." Daniel felt anger rise in his chest. So this isn't about whether we're good enough, it's about what they can take from us. Politics and principle are rarely separate, said. They have legitimate concerns too. Humanity has only recently developed fusion power. You still have wars. Your environmental problems are serious. They can point to real issues. Then why am I here? Walked back to him. Because in 6 days the Coalition Council votes on humanity's admission. They have submitted evidence against you. Video of your wars, data on your pollution, statistics on crime and violence. They will present all of this to the Council, and I need someone to present the other side. You want me to defend humanity in front of alien species. I want you to tell them what you told me, that humans are not perfect, but they try, that individual choices matter, that hope and growth are worth more than a clean record. She knelt beside his chair so they were at eye level. I trust you, Daniel. I trust your voice more than any politician or diplomat. You are real. You are honest. The Council needs to hear from someone like you. I'm just a cargo pilot. You are human, that is all you need to be. She took his hand, just like she had on the beach. I know this is overwhelming. I know I am asking too much, but I would not ask if I did not believe you could do this. Will you speak for your species? Daniel looked at their joined hands, then at her face. He saw the weight she carried, the responsibility of hundreds of worlds on her shoulders. He thought about that night at the bar when she just wanted to be a person, not a title. He understood that feeling now. If I say no, then I find someone else, but it won't be the same. She squeezed his hand. You reminded me why I believe in people, Daniel. In all the centuries I have lived, in all the species I have met, humans have something special, a spark, a refusal to give up even when everything is against you. I saw that in you. He wanted to say no. He wanted to go back to his simple life hauling cargo, where the only thing that mattered was getting supplies from point A to point B, but he looked at the hope in her eyes, and he knew he could not walk away. Okay, he said, I'll do it. Relief washed over her face. Thank you, we have 6 days to prepare. I will help you every step of the way. What happens if the vote fails? Stood and looked out the window again. If humanity is rejected, the coalition withdraws. Earth remains isolated, alone in the universe for at least another century. The move into nearby systems and extract everything of value. Humanity will eventually reach the stars on your own, but it will take longer and cost more. And if we're accepted, then humanity joins 347 other species in the greatest alliance the galaxy has ever known. You gain access to technology, knowledge, and opportunities beyond imagination. But you also accept responsibilities. Coalition members must follow certain laws, respect certain boundaries. It is not freedom without limits. Daniel stood beside her. Is it worth it? Yes, she said without hesitation. The coalition is not perfect, but it is better than the alternative. Better than species fighting over scraps, better than endless wars over resources, better than being alone in the dark. Together, we can do things no single species could achieve. He believed her. Maybe that was foolish. Maybe he was being manipulated again. But when he looked at her, he did not see a politician or a chancellor. He saw the woman who had held his hand and asked him if humanity could be better. When do we start? He asked. She smiled. Tomorrow, tonight you should rest. I have arranged quarters for you here in the compound. Will I see you again before the council meeting? Every day, she promised. We have a lot of work to do. As guards escorted him to his room, Daniel realized his life had changed completely in the span of a few hours. He was about to speak before alien species he had not known existed this morning. The fate of humanity might rest on his words. He thought about that cargo ship waiting for him at the docks, about the simple life he had known. It was gone in the next 5 days, passed in a blur. Worked with Daniel every night, helping him prepare his testimony. They sat in her private office, reviewing the evidence they would present, discussing the best ways to respond. They will show footage of your wars, explained on the second night. World War II, Vietnam, the resource conflicts of 2089. They will ask how the coalition can trust a species that destroys itself repeatedly. What do I say to that? Daniel asked, feeling overwhelmed. The truth, that war is part of human history, but so is peace. That you learn, you grow, you change. She pulled up images on her screen. Look at these. After World War II, Europe built a union. After the resource conflicts, Earth formed the Global Council. Humans don't just fight, you find ways to stop fighting. They worked late every night. Daniel learned about coalition laws, about the different species and their histories. He learned that they had fought 3 civil wars before joining the coalition, that they had nearly destroyed their planet before developing clean energy. Every species had darkness in their past. But he also learned about, she was older than she looked, much older. Coalition medical technology kept her young, but she had lived for over 200 years. She had seen species rise and fall. She had made decisions that saved billions and decisions that cost lives. The weight of it all showed in quiet moments when she thought he was not watching. On the 4th night, she told him about her first visit to Earth. "I came here 50 years ago," she said. "Before I was chancellor, when I was just an ambassador. Earth was different then, more divided, more dangerous. I recommended the coalition wait. I did not think humanity was ready." "What changed your mind?" "You did, and millions like you." She looked at him across the desk. 50 years ago, I met humans who were afraid of each other, who saw differences as threats. This time, I met you. A man who hauls cargo to keep people alive, who believes his small role matters, who thinks humans can be better. That shift from fear to hope happened in just 50 years. Imagine what you could do with 500. "You really believe in us?" Daniel said, surprised. "I really do. That is why this vote matters so much to me." She reached across the desk and took his hand. "Tomorrow you will stand before the council. Some of them will want to reject humanity just to avoid complications. Others will judge you by impossible standards, but some will listen. Some will hear what I heard in that bar. You just need to reach them." The night before the council meeting, Daniel could not sleep. He lay in his quarters staring at the ceiling, trying to organize his thoughts. Everything he said tomorrow would be analyzed by hundreds of alien species. Millions of humans would be watching. His words would echo through history. He thought about giving up, about telling he could not do this. But then he remembered why he agreed. Because someone needed to speak for the ordinary humans, the ones who just tried to live good lives, the ones who never made the news but made the world work anyway. Morning came too fast, met him outside the council chamber. She wore her formal robes again, the ones that shimmered with light. She looked like she commanded galaxies, but when she saw his face, she smiled gently. "Breathe," she said. "Just remember what we practiced. Be yourself, be honest, that is all you need." "What if I fail?" "Then you fail honestly, and that is still better than never trying." She squeezed his shoulder. "I will be there. If you need help, look at me. I cannot speak during your testimony, but I can give you strength." The council chamber was massive. Daniel stepped through the doors and stopped, overwhelmed by the sight. The room was circular, rising up in tiers like an ancient amphitheater. Each tier held representatives from different species. Some looked almost human. Others were so alien he could not understand their body structure. At the highest tier sat, flanked by her advisors. She caught his eye and nodded. A voice echoed through the chamber, speaking in that strange, universal translation that somehow made every language sound natural. "The council recognizes Daniel Carter of Earth. You may speak." Daniel walked to the center of the floor. A platform raised him up so all the tiers could see him clearly. Hundreds of eyes, some familiar and some completely alien, watched him. "Thank you for letting me speak," he began, his voice shaking. He cleared his throat and tried again. "My name is Daniel Carter. I am a cargo pilot. I haul supplies between orbital stations. I am not a leader or a scientist or anyone important. I am just a human." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. He pushed forward. "I know they have shown you evidence against humanity. I know you have seen our wars, our violence, our mistakes. I cannot deny any of that. Those things happened. They are part of who we are." A representative stood up from one of the lower tiers. He was tall, with dark red skin and features that looked carved from stone. "Then you admit humanity is dangerous." "I admit we are flawed," Daniel said. "But so is every species here. The Chancellor gave me access to coalition records. I learned about the civil wars, about the environmental collapse, about the Talon genetic experiments. Every species in this room has done terrible things." The representative, ambassador, spoke again. "But we learned from our mistakes before joining the coalition. Humanity is still fighting wars, still destroying your environment, still divided by borders and beliefs." "You are right," Daniel said and looked surprised. "We are still learning, still growing, but that is exactly why we should join now. The coalition is supposed to help species develop, not punish them for being imperfect. If you only accept species that have already solved all their problems, then what is the point? Why have a coalition at all? More murmurs filled the chamber, leaned forward, watching intently. Daniel felt his confidence grow. I want to tell you about my job. I move cargo, food, medicine, equipment. I fly the same routes over and over. Most people never think about what I do. But if I stop, people on those stations starve. They get sick. They cannot do their work. I matter because what I do helps others survive. What is your point? Demanded. My point is that humanity is full of people like me. People who do small things that matter. We are not perfect. We fight sometimes. We make mistakes. But every day, millions of humans wake up and try to make things better. We feed each other. We heal each other. We reach out to strangers and offer help. He thought about that night at the bar, about asking if he liked humanity. You ask if humans are ready to join the coalition. I say yes. Not because we have all the answers, but because we know we do not. Not because we are perfect, but because we want to be better. That desire to improve, to grow, to reach for something higher than ourselves, that is what makes us human. A new voice spoke from one of the upper tiers. The alien looked like flowing water, somehow held in a vaguely humanoid shape. Beautiful words, young human, but words are easy. They showed us evidence. What evidence can you provide that humanity deserves this chance? Daniel thought about everything taught him, about the union formed after wars, about the global cooperation after disasters. But those were just facts. The council needed something more. Look at Earth from space, he said quietly. It is one small planet alone in the dark. We could have given up centuries ago. We could have destroyed ourselves a dozen times over. But we did not. Every time we fell, we got back up. Every time we failed, we tried again. We went from caves to space stations in a few thousand years. We did that without help, without guidance, with nothing but our own determination. He looked directly at. You say we are too violent, maybe, but we are also too stubborn to quit, too hopeful to accept failure, too curious to stay in one place. Those same qualities that make us dangerous also make us survivors, and the galaxy needs survivors. Stood again. The galaxy needs stability. Humanity threatens that stability. You have nuclear weapons. You have not solved climate change. Your planet is divided into competing nations. What happens when you bring those conflicts into space? The same thing that happened on Earth, Daniel said. We will struggle, we will argue, we will make mistakes. But eventually we will find common ground. We always do. It just takes time. Time we may not have, said. The coalition has enough problems without adding humanity's chaos to the mix. Daniel felt anger rise in his chest. Then why are you really opposed to human admission? Is it because you genuinely fear us, or because you want access to the systems near Earth? Systems that become protected if we join. The chamber went silent. His face darkened. You dare accuse me of greed? I accuse you of having reasons beyond what you have stated, Daniel said carefully. The Chancellor showed me the reports. I know what resources exist in those systems. I know they have been trying to claim them for years. Maybe your concerns about humanity are real, or maybe they are convenient. His eyes widened slightly. This was not part of what they practiced. Daniel was taking a risk. Stepped forward. My concerns are legitimate. Show me proof that humanity can be trusted. Show me evidence that you will not bring your wars and violence into coalition space. Daniel took a deep breath. I cannot show you proof. I can only tell you what I believe. I believe humans will make mistakes. I believe we will struggle with the responsibilities you give us. But I also believe we will rise to meet them. Because that is what we do. We adapt. We overcome. We find a way forward. He looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as he could. The coalition exists because species chose cooperation over conflict. Someone had to be first. Someone had to take a risk and trust that working together was better than standing alone. All I ask is that you take that same risk with humanity. Give us a chance to prove ourselves. If we fail, then you can say you were right. But if we succeed, if we become the partners you hope for, then you will have gained something valuable. Council deliberated for 3 days. Daniel spent that time in his quarters watching news coverage from Earth. His testimony had been broadcast worldwide. Some people called him a hero. Others said he was not qualified to speak for humanity. Everyone had opinions about what he should have said differently. Came to see him each evening, but she could not stay long. The deliberations were intense, with species arguing late into the night. She looked more tired each time, the weight of everything pressing down on her. How is it going? Daniel asked on the second night. Close, too close. She sat beside him, her formal robes replaced with simple clothes. They are fighting hard. They have convinced several allied species to join their opposition. Others are undecided. Did I make things worse by calling out their motives? No, you made things interesting. She smiled slightly. Some species appreciated your directness. Others thought you were rude, but everyone is talking about what you said. That is more than I hoped for. What happens if the vote fails? Was quiet for a long moment. I stepped down as High Chancellor. Daniel stared at her. What? Why? Because I recommended immediate contact and admission. I staked my reputation on humanity. If the Council rejects you, it means they rejected my judgment. I cannot lead effectively after that. She looked at him with those tired eyes. I knew the risk when I made my recommendation. I accepted it. This is my fault. No, she took his hand. This is the consequence of believing in something. I have lived 200 years, Daniel. I have played it safe for most of them. I followed data, made calculated decisions, avoided risks. Then I met a cargo pilot in a bar who reminded me why I took this job in the first place. To help species reach their potential. To give them chances, not judge them by their worst moments. I do not want you to lose everything because of me. Then humanity better pass the vote. She squeezed his hand and stood. Get some rest. Tomorrow is the final day. Daniel could not sleep that night. He thought about giving up her position, about Earth remaining isolated, about all the cargo runs he would make, never seeing another species, never knowing what else was out there. But he also thought about what he said in the council chamber, about humans being stubborn, hopeful, and determined. If he meant those words, he had to believe them now. Morning came, sent a message saying the vote would happen at noon. Daniel watched on his screen as the council chamber filled again, took her position at the highest tier, her face calm but her hands gripped the armrests too tightly. Ambassador spoke first. The delegation has reviewed all evidence. We maintain our position. Humanity is not ready for admission to the coalition. They are too violent, too unpredictable, too dangerous. We urge all species to vote against admission. Other species spoke, some in favor, some against. The arguments went back and forth for an hour. Daniel watched humans on Earth gathering in public spaces, watching the same broadcast. The entire planet waited. Finally stood. The chamber went quiet. The evidence has been presented. The arguments have been heard. It is time to vote. All in favor of humanity's admission to the Galactic Coalition, please indicate. Lights appeared throughout the chamber. Each species had their own marker. Daniel tried to count them, but there were too many and they moved too fast. All opposed to humanity's admission, please indicate. More lights appeared. The chamber's computer system tallied the results. His face remained neutral, but Daniel saw her hands shake slightly. The vote is recorded. By a count of 184 in favor, 162 opposed, and one species abstaining, humanity's admission to the Galactic Coalition is approved. The chamber erupted. Some species cheered, others protested. On Earth, Daniel could hear celebrations through the compound walls. But his eyes stayed on. She had not moved. She just stood there, and for a moment her calm mask slipped. He saw relief, joy, and exhaustion flash across her face. Stood up, his voice cutting through the noise. The delegation lodges a formal protest. This vote was too close. It indicates a lack of consensus. Consensus is not required, said firmly. A simple majority is sufficient according to coalition law. Humanity has been accepted. This matter is closed. Then they will reconsider our membership in the coalition, announced. Met his gaze directly. That is your choice, Ambassador, but before you make threats, consider what you lose. They depend on coalition trade routes. Your economy relies on access to coalition markets. Your military shares coalition defense networks. Are you truly willing to give all that up over one vote? Said nothing, the silence stretched out. Continued, her voice softer but no less firm. The coalition was built on the idea that cooperation serves everyone better than isolation. We accept imperfect species because perfection is impossible. We take risks because playing it safe means never growing. If they cannot accept that principle, perhaps it is time to reconsider whether you belong here. More silence, then sat down. They will remain in the coalition, but we maintain our protest. Noted and recorded, said. She looked around the chamber. Humanity's admission is official. Welcome Earth to the Galactic Coalition. The formal proceedings ended an hour later. Daniel was escorted back to his quarters where he sat in stunned silence. Humanity had made it. They were part of something bigger now. A knock came at his door, entered without waiting for an answer. She still wore her formal robes, but her hair had come loose from its elaborate style. She looked at him for a long moment, then started laughing. "We did it," she said. "We actually did it." Daniel stood up and she threw her arms around him. He held her tightly, feeling her shake with laughter and relief. "You are not stepping down," he said. "No, I am very much not stepping down." She pulled back to look at him. "You were brilliant in there, the way you called out, the way you spoke about humanity's stubbornness. It made the difference." "I just said what I believed." "I know, that is why it worked." She touched his face gently, the same way she had that morning months ago. "I have good news and complicated news. Which do you want first?" "Good news." Earth's integration begins immediately. Coalition ambassadors will be assigned to help your government's transition. Technology sharing starts within the month. Humans will be allowed to travel to coalition worlds, study at coalition institutions, trade with other species. Everything I promised is happening. "That is incredible. What is the complicated news?" Stepped back, suddenly looking nervous. "My term as High Chancellor ends in 2 years. It is a long term, 10 years total, and I have served 8 already. After that, I step down voluntarily. Someone else takes over." "You are leaving your position." "Yes, I have been thinking about it for years, but recent events made the decision final." She looked out the window at the stars. 200 years is a long time to carry this weight. I want to live a smaller life for a while. See things as a person, not a leader. Maybe find out what it is like to just exist without the fate of galaxies hanging over every decision. Daniel's heart started beating faster. "What will you do?" She turned back to him, and he saw nervousness in her eyes. Real nervousness, not the diplomatic mask she wore before the council. "I was thinking about getting a job on a cargo ship, if the pilot would have me." He stared at her. "You are the High Chancellor of the galaxy. You can do anything, go anywhere. Why would you want to haul cargo?" "Because 3 months ago I met a man who does that job and finds meaning in it, who believes small actions matter, who helped me remember why I took this position in the first place." She stepped closer to him. "I am not asking for an answer now. 2 years is a long time. Things might change. But I wanted you to know what I am thinking about." "You manipulated our first meeting," Daniel said slowly. "You came to that bar looking for someone to evaluate." "I did." "And you asked me all those questions to judge humanity." "I did." "But something changed that night." Nodded. "Something changed. I stopped evaluating and started just talking, started just feeling. You gave me something I had not had in decades, a genuine connection with someone who saw me as a person, not a position." Daniel thought about that night, about how easy it had been to talk to her, about how she listened like his words mattered. He thought about the last few days working with her, seeing the weight she carried. 2 years is not that long," he said quietly. She smiled, really smiled, for the first time since the vote. "No, it is not." They stood together in the quiet room, looking out at the stars. Earth was out there somewhere, celebrating its admission to the galactic community. Billions of humans were dreaming about the future, about the possibilities opening up before them. But Daniel was thinking about a smaller future. About cargo runs between worlds, about conversations in the cockpit, about someone who understood both the vastness of space and the importance of small moments. "Will you still want this in 2 years?" he asked. "After everything settles down." "Yes," said without hesitation. "I have made this decision already. I am tired, Daniel, tired of politics and power and making choices that affect billions. I want something simple, something real, something like what we had that night." That night was based on a lie. The meeting was arranged. My questions had purpose, but nothing I felt was a lie. She took his hand. "Everything after that was real, and these last few days working with you, talking with you, that was real too." Daniel squeezed her hand. "Okay. Okay. Okay, 2 years from now, if you still want a job on a cargo ship, it is yours." He smiled slightly. "But I am not calling you Chancellor. You will just be the co-pilot with really good credentials." She laughed, and it sounded lighter than any sound he had heard from her. "Deal." The next months passed in a blur of activity. Daniel returned to Earth briefly to see his family, to answer more questions from the press, to watch as the first coalition ambassadors arrived. Then he went back to work, hauling cargo between stations. But now his routes included stops at alien facilities. He met species he had only seen on broadcasts. He learned to navigate coalition trade, laws, and regulations. Earth was integrating faster than anyone expected, and cargo pilots were suddenly in high demand. Sent him messages regularly. Updates on coalition business, stories about diplomatic incidents, complaints about boring meetings. They talked when they could, but she was busy, and so was he. 2 years felt both close and impossibly far away. Then one day, Daniel received a message, simple and direct. "My term ends tomorrow. I meant what I said. Do you still need a co-pilot?" He stared at the message for a long time. Then he typed back, "Yes, welcome aboard." The next week arrived at the docks. She wore simple clothes, carried one bag, and looked more relaxed than he had ever seen her. No formal robes, no guards, no diplomatic entourage. Just a woman starting a new life. "Ready to haul cargo?" Daniel asked as she climbed into the cockpit. "Ready to live," she said, settling into the co-pilot's seat. They launched from Earth together, heading toward Mars for a supply run. It was routine, boring work, exactly what both of them needed. As Earth fell away behind them, reached over and took his hand. "Thank you." "For what?" "For being honest that night, for speaking to the council, for giving me something to believe in again." She looked at him with those eyes that had seen centuries of history, "for showing me that a small life can matter just as much as a big one." Daniel squeezed her hand. "One night with a stranger changed everything." "One night with you changed everything," she corrected. They flew into the dark together, two people who commanded nothing and everything at the same time. Behind them, Earth spun peacefully, humanity's first chapter in the stars just beginning. Ahead, the galaxy waited, full of possibilities. But in that moment, in the quiet cockpit of a cargo ship, the universe felt just right. The chamber remained quiet. Daniel's heart pounded. He had said everything he could think of. Finally spoke. "Thank you, Daniel Carter. The council will now deliberate," she looked at, "both in favor of humanity's admission and against." Daniel was escorted from the chamber. His legs shook as he walked. He had no idea if he helped humanity's case or hurt it. All he could do now was wait. Replaced by something bigger and more terrifying than he ever imagined. But he thought about's words, about humans having a spark, about the refusal to give up. If one cargo pilot could help humanity reach the stars, then every moment of fear would be worth it. But his heart knew the truth. She had come back to Earth for a reason, and somehow, impossibly, that reason included him. He accepted the communication. He would never forget her, though. Some people leave a mark even when they only stay for one night. 3 months later, everything changed.